Hi everyone. As I recorded that last video dealing with the 1920s, I realized that there was a huge aspect that was missing from that video. So in an effort to sort of go back and sort of catch up on those aspects, I'm just recording another video instead of trying to edit it into the last one. What is that aspect? What am I talking about? Sports, entertainment, and the rise of the first American national heroes might be one way in which to say it, and I'm talking about cultural heroes. This was a decade of big changes in how people spent their leisure time, from cheering on the baseball legends to the point at which baseball becomes America's pastime, and also enjoying the latest films. Movies become a big deal in the 20s. And even in the 30s, when folks don't have money to do anything, movies will continue to be an important aspect of American culture. So let's start talking about sports and baseball. Baseball becomes America's favorite pastime in the 1920s. In fact, its origins go back to before the Civil War, when town ball and rounders were a game that a lot of communities would play, particularly up north. And so when they go to the war and people are being brought in from different communities into this Union Army, well, they start to play their games, and they play by different rules in different towns. Well, one particular general by the name of Abner Doubleday comes in and says, we need to come up with some rules, because what's happening is I'm losing men in my army because you're beating each other up, because you're arguing over what the rules for this game is. And so baseball comes along as a result of that. So the New York Yankees would be one of the first teams, I believe 1870 or so. The Boston Red Stockings, Chicago Red Stock, some of these teams like that will be some of the I believe some of the first baseball teams. Now, Babe Ruth in the 1920s plays for the New York Yankees, and he's known for his incredible home runs. He quickly becomes one of the true national sports figures. He has a larger-than-life personality. He's a party animal in many ways. And the fact that he is so good at baseball, record-breaking performances, helps baseball to reach new heights of popularity. And most large urban areas will have a home team. And it wasn't just baseball. Boxing is going to capture the public's imagination. Jack Dempsey is going to be a major figure in the ring in the 1920s. College football is growing fast too, with stars like Red Grange becoming household names. And for the first time, athletes are becoming national celebrities, followed by millions of fans through newspapers and radio broadcasts. And I believe this is when we start to see baseball cards and not football yet. That'll come later. But baseball cards becomes a way to sort of capitalize on the growing movement of sports. Now, Hollywood is also booming in the 1920s. Silent films were incredibly popular in the 1920s. We haven't really developed the technology for sound just yet. And stars like Charlie Chaplin, Clara Bow, and Rudolph Valentino are all going to become icons. And the movies are going to offer an escape from everyday life. It helped to create a shared national culture, and people from across the country could see the same films and idolize the same stars. And something that's kind of interesting, why did the movie industry grow up in California? Well, land was cheap, and within a very short travel time of LA, where Hollywood is, you can get to just about any type of landscape. Great for movie making. The sea, the mountains, snow, desert, forests, within a very short distance. You could be anywhere you needed to be to film the scenes that you needed to film for the movie and tell the story that you wanted to tell. By the mid-1920s, going to the movies was a regular activity for millions of Americans. So the rise of talkies, movies with sound, would eventually come in by the late 1920s, and Hollywood would become a major force in entertainment, and it remains that way today. Sets the stage for the modern film industry that we know today. Now, while movies were taking over, radios were transforming American life also. In the 1920s, this is the golden age of radio. And for the first time, people could listen to live broadcasts of sporting events, music, news, entertainment shows from their own home. And today we listen to maybe news, maybe we listen to music. In those days, it was also incredibly popular to listen to live broadcasts like concerts, but it was also very popular to listen to radio dramas. So if you ever want to go online, go look up some of the old radio dramas. They're kind of cool. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go check maybe a few of those out. Now, radio is going to help to unite the country also by creating a shared experience, because you could be in Dallas, Texas, and listen to something coming out of Chicago. Families would gather around and listen to their favorite programs. Sport fans could can hear live play-by-play commentary of the games that they are interested in, and it brings the excitement of events like the World Series right into American living rooms. Now, of course, we can't forget the automobile. So thanks to the car and innovations like Henry Ford's assembly line, which brings the price of the car down tremendously, for example, his Model T Fords, Americans are now going to be able to afford these automobiles. Even if you still have to borrow, it's still a manageable thing. So in the 1920s, we see a boom of car ownership, which is going to change everything from how people traveled, about how cities and suburbs are going to develop, all of these sorts of things. Now, cars are going to give Americans a sense of freedom, of mobility, lets them travel farther for work, leisure, and entertainment. And road trips become a new form of vacation, and the landscape of America starts to change. We see the rise of highways. We're going to see the building of gas stations, roadside attractions, roadside hotels called motels, and we start to see things like that. In fact, I'll even throw out that's where the origin of the business model of a place like Sonic comes from. You drive in, get your food, never get out of your car. Much more frequent back in the 1920s when folks were really traveling during this automobile boom. And the 1920s, we're also going to see other new heroes. In addition, we saw Babe Ruth, talked about him, but aviation, airplanes, aviation is going to capture the public's imagination as well. In 1927, Charles Lindbergh is going to become an instant national hero when he completes the first nonstop solo flight across the Atlantic. He leaves New York and he lands in Paris about 33 hours later. And Lindbergh is going to, his daring achievements is going to inspire countless others, like the famous female aviator Amelia Earhart. She becomes the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic a few years later in 1932. And, of course, there's a great mystery on what happened to her. She tried to fly around the world and was lost somewhere in the Pacific a few years later. These pioneers, though, are going to symbolize the spirit of adventure and the innovation that had defined the 1920s. So in the 20s, sports and entertainment and new technologies are going to reshape American life. And we're talking about the thrilling excitement of baseball. We've got boxing. I didn't really talk about golf and tennis are all going to be popular games as well. It becomes much, much more popular. And Hollywood movies, the glamour that we see coming out of that, the reach of radio, all of these things are going to change the society. People are going to find profound new ways to enjoy their leisure time. It's a decade that gives rise to modern entertainment, and it's going to continue to impact us even as we move into today. So thanks for watching this little addendum to my last video on the Roaring '20s. And again, if this helps you, let me know, and I will see you on the next video. We should be getting into the Great Depression. Take care.